Hey, it's me. It's animated me. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and it's time for another episode of Completed It. Movie reviews, pop culture, celebrity guests, and all that good stuff. Oh, and my good friend over there, Sacha Lari, that's my co-host. Hey, Sach, hit the titles, brother. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Completed It, and I'm your host, Andy Burrows. And as you can see, as always, two of my co-hosts are here today. John he's off somewhere in a hot tub. I don't want to know what he's doing. Down the bottom of my screen, my good friend, longest friend in the world, actually. Yeah, known this guy since I was about 3 years old. Sacha, how are you, brother?
All good, mate. All good.
We're finally going to sit down and talk about a movie that we all agree on. In the top left is we'll call him like the horror Yoda. If he doesn't know about horror, it's not worth knowing. Neil, how are you, bro?
I'm doing good, sir. Doing good.
Good to do this again. Well, first one of the week. Life has got in the way this week, boys. We're recording this like late at night. We're getting this content out to everyone. But thanks to everyone tuning into the channel. I'm going to get this right at the start. You can find this on YouTube. Type in "Completed It Podcast," and that's where you can find us. Because sometimes I forget to mention it at the end. Neil, Sash, Neil, I'm going to come to you first because you are our horror guru. We all saw the movie Weapons
Yes.
this week. It had a lot of hype. It had a lot of build up. Everyone's saying, and all the critics were like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And a few people that I know, and especially in our WhatsApp group, were like, best horror film I've ever seen. 9 out of 10, 9.5, 10 out of 10. Amazing. So, me being the horror virgin that I am, and we get into that a little bit if you want, I thought, let's go see this. Horror's not really my genre.
Mhm.
I've never really like Sinners was probably like thrillery horror that the first one I've gone to the cinema to watch. We'll call this the second horror movie that I've ever seen in the cinema ever in my life. I know that's kind of it's not Hot Take Friday yet, but that's kind of a hot take. Neil, so the premise of this movie, the same class of kids mysteriously disappear at exactly the same time, and the community is left questioning who, why, and how
Mhm.
all these young kids from this elementary school have all gone missing at 2:17 a.m. And the premise of the film, and again, this is going to have spoilers in it, so you haven't seen Weapons, switch off now. The premise of the film, it starts off where they're accusing the teacher, maybe, of the kids going missing, and then the police officers getting involved, and then the parents themselves are getting involved, questioning the teacher, but then the parents end up helping the teacher, and they ended up there's one surviving kid in this whole class. And
Mhm.
if you think about the movie revolves around this kid and his family life. This movie was done so well because you see the movie,
Mhm.
and then when you're catching up with the individual characters, you're seeing the movie again, but through the eyes of that character and the movie that you've already seen. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you're watching it through you watch the movie from different POVs, different
You
points
are a
of view.
horror man, Neil. What did you
Yes.
think of Weapons?
Oh, I think like of the since the year 2000, oh, this has got to be top 3
See,
horror
now that is a
film
big statement. I don't know much about horror, but that is a big statement.
of yeah, from the year 2000 to now. It's got to be up there. Like, whew, wow. This
Because a
movie
lot of
was
people's
amazing.
opinions, and
Hmm.
I was reading. I've gone since I've watched it. I've gone through our group chat. I
Hmm.
also do. I love going on X and I go on IMDb. A lot of people, Neil, you'll probably able to. You'll tell me more than this than
Yes,
I will ever know. They're saying this is what we call traditional horror movies, not
absolutely.
the what is it? Someone said to me, not the AI crap that we might get now, or not the bullshit horror. That's just they're scaring people just for the sake of scaring people. There's no story.
Yeah, that's
Was
it.
it was in your eyes? Was this a traditional horror film?
Absolutely was. It absolutely was. The thing is, there's so many when it comes to horror, there's so many different kind of like stages of horror. There is, because obviously you have things like you've got the ghost horror, and then you've got slasher movies, and then you've got like the creature features and stuff. And but what a horror film kind of needs to have, which as a broader level of separation, is you have kind of your classic horror, which is like something's happened, you've got characters trying to investigate it, and it doesn't have to rely on things like jump scares.
Hmm.
You know, slasher movies are notorious for just jump scares. Every 5 minutes there's a jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. But that's kind of its thing. It kind of needs to have the jump scares. Whereas old school classic horrors are more about building tension. They're like, I'm going to give you as much tension as I can. In this movie, wow, the amount of tension. I think the only other film that I would say has this amount of tension would be like Nosferatu. And Nosferatu is such a classic tale that you could be like, it's only tension if you don't know the story.
That
Yeah.
means, yeah, Nosferatu that means nothing to me.
Came out earlier this year.
It came
It
out in
had
January.
Okay,
it came
one I
out
need to
January.
check out. What makes a good horror film, boys?
Dash?
Ooh. Well, I think
Because
you know.
everyone's saying Weapons is a traditional horror movie. So, in your
Mhm.
opinion, before we break down this movie a little bit more,
Yep.
what makes a good horror film? Because, like Neil just said,
Yeah.
sometimes you can just scare people for the sake of scaring people.
Mhm.
You know, the poor woman next to me during this movie was hilarious. She had us all in fits because you can tell that she wanted to come and see this movie. She was petrified for the whole movie, even when there weren't real scare scenes. She had us all laughing, and she kept apologizing to everyone because the cinema was packed. She was like, "I'm really sorry, I'm really sorry." She was with her daughter, and everyone kept saying, "It's okay." She's like, "I don't usually watch these kind of movies." You know, it was hilarious. But
My
what made
favorite kind
I'll
of
say
people.
this.
yeah,
I'll say this about horror movies, though.
Mm.
Horror movies, along with comedies, are some of the best audiences you're ever going to get
Mhm.
because it's a shared experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
When people watch a horror movie, the whole cinema erupts the same way.
hmm
Everyone's on the same page. They're shitting themselves. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's best to watch a horror movie with an audience. And I prefer to watch a horror movie at the cinema
oh
with a
yeah, this
group
one
of
was
people.
packed when I went.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
packed in the cinema.
You guys are lucky. I watched it. There was like 6 people in the
Oh
screen.
no, this was. I
Oh,
went
man.
to the iSense in Odeon, Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Packed, not one spare seat.
Mm.
Packed slot, and everyone was jumping at the same time, and everyone was oh, you know, at the right moments. But Sash, what did
Mhm.
you think of the movie, bro?
Fantastic, mate. It's one of the most original horrors in a long time. It's definitely like one of the most original films that have come out this year, hands down. It's yeah, it has you intrigued from start to finish. I saw like the first trailer of it. I might have saw the second one, but nothing could prepare me for what the revelations were in this film. I
A
didn't
lot of
see
people said
any
that in
of
our
it.
group chat, weren't they?
Yeah,
You won't see
yeah,
it
I
coming.
didn't see any of it
I didn't
coming.
see it coming.
I don't want to do a spoiler review, but I just want
Oh,
to say,
we're doing it
just watch
before
the
you know.
trailer. It won't
Yeah.
spoil a damn thing. Um, it's it's intense. It gets
Mhm.
intense. It gets wacky, as in like, huh? Yeah, what the fuck? Because of the different perspective of the storytelling.
Mhm.
Um, but all in a good way. All in a good way. And it is very, very thrilling, edgy seat shit right here. I thoroughly recommend it.
Mm.
Um, the big debate is it better than Sinners? I saw Sinners last night for the first time, and
You can
like I've
now and
been
go watch
telling,
my and Neil's review about it. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
well,
Mhm.
when I need to see both films a second time to see which one's better than the other, but at the moment they're both very, very good films and probably the two best films that have come out this year for me.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, um, easily within my top three films of the year. This one.
Okay. Neil, we were talking before we hit record on today's
Yes.
episode. The only thing, and I said this to you earlier, and we said we are going to
Mhm.
bring it up on the show. Is it a horror thing where they might not tell you some of the story like they would in a normal movie that you just think's a given? Because in this movie
Mhm.
and in horror that you were explaining to me before we recorded, and a lot of
Yeah.
listeners into a little insight now, the witch story is quite well known amongst horror fans. So I felt
Mhm.
the only thing I couldn't figure out in this movie, and Sasha, I don't know, you might be able to chime in as well because you're kind of getting into your horror as well. I didn't get the whole witch bit of why she was doing what she was doing and
Okay,
why
so we're
she
doing
was.
spoilers.
Yeah, I said
Yeah.
that at the start. I
Oh,
didn't.
okay,
I didn't
fair
get.
enough.
I didn't get why she was. They didn't well, I'll do air quotes here. In a quote unquote normal movie, they'll tell me, "Oh, this woman's sick because." They'll tell me her
Yeah.
backstory. They'll tell me she's ill because. The witch turned up, who is a great part, by the way. And didn't really see it coming because the way the movie was angling you, and then bam, she
Yeah,
was the center of attention with the little boy. She was the auntie of the little boy. She took over the parents. But for those that have seen it, and everyone watching this far into the episode will have seen it by now, I felt that as a horror virgin, I
Mhm.
needed explaining why she was doing what she was doing. But Neil, you made the point to me that amongst horror goers, it's kind of already knowing why she's there and what she's
Mhm.
doing. Did I just miss something? Is that me being a horror virgin? Because I felt it's the only
You
bit of
didn't,
this movie for me that I was like, and I said to you before we start recording, the
yeah.
guy in front of me walked out and said to his wife, or she said to him, why was the witch there? Why was she sick?
Mm.
Why was she doing what she was doing with the snapping of the twigs?
Yeah.
And except, was that me just being stupid or did I just miss something?
No, 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 no. I think you see what it is with horror films, one of the best things to do is you leave things implied. Like I don't like it with like action films or friggin', like romance or whatever, right? Dramas. I don't want things implied. Like, tell me why. Horror films,
I can't imagine you at a romance movie.
horror films, I'm like, you can imply some stuff
Hmm.
because it becomes as I was saying to you, right? I was like, if I put it on the screen and you watch it, you are afraid by what is in my head. If I leave it implied and your imagination has to run wild with it,
Sorry for everyone watching. Tottenham have just scored again.
yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. If it's like, you have to if you're watching a horror film, if I don't tell you what it is, your mind has to make up the reason why, and then that becomes even more scary.
Right.
It's sort of like the best way I can like it to is the Joker, right?
Hmm.
What makes a better Joker? You not knowing why he's crazy, he's crazy for no reason, or
Hmm.
society made him crazy because they were mean to him and he's got mental health issues. Like
Okay.
what's scarier? The guy, the kind of Joker who will, walk up to you in an alleyway and you're like, he might kill you, he might give you $1,000.
Yeah.
Or the guy who's like, you were mean to me.
Mm.
Right? I think with horror films, it's a thing of you not knowing why she was binding, like, well, I've just fucking told you, right?
Yeah.
What she was doing was, when she's casting her spell, she needs to mix her blood with something that belongs to whoever she wants to bind,
Right.
and the stick binds that person.
Is this a common thing in all like witchy horror films?
It's not, well, it's
Is
not
it
a common thing in all witch films.
right?
It's technically a kind of common thread amongst witches,
Right. I'm with you.
right? And this thing of, the taking an item from your intended victim and some of your blood, you are binding them to you. And the snapping of the stick is to activate them, basically.
Right. Yeah,
That's
because
like the most rudimentary way I can phrase it to you.
because like that's the bit I felt the only bit, and it's not didn't let the movie down. Just for
Yeah.
me, I didn't get why she was ill and why she
Mhm.
turned up, and they sort of just got to her being there, and then it was like,
Yeah.
right, let's let this woman get to work. And fucking hell, when she got to work, it was like, wow, this is
Oh,
incredible. Because
Well,
then when they
they did kind of explain it. She was feeling ill.
yeah, but they
yeah.
just said auntie's coming to stay. When the little boy is like, why is she coming? Oh, because she's
Yeah,
ill.
because she's ill.
Yeah, but then, but like,
Because she's
why
ill.
is yeah, but why did she not? Why is she starting to do all the
Right.
witchcraft and why is she
Well, the
of the
thing
starting?
is,
witchcraft because
yeah.
she's feeding off of the
Yeah, but
people
I
that
never,
come to the
as
shop.
an audience goer, they
Yeah.
never explained it to me.
They kind of did. They
I don't
kind of
know.
did,
Maybe
Well,
I'm
man.
I
just
think the way that they
Yeah,
I kind of agree with Sash. The way that
yeah.
they explained it was when she was there and she was like, "Oh,
Do
I
you
felt
want?
sick
Yeah,
and I
I feel
I
sick. Yeah,
tried." When she
hmm
said, when she's talking to the little boy, when she's got like his whole, like everyone's at the dinner table, and she
hmm
says, "I thought your mum and dad would make me feel better, and they didn't."
right.
yeah,
So that is why she was like, "I need the kids."
yeah.
Because the parents are too old. They don't have enough
So
life
I
force
need the
left to make
younger.
me better. So I get the younger ones, and I'm good to go. And if you noticed, if you when you were watching the film, if you noticed, she actually visibly appeared younger, or not by much, but she visibly appeared
Yeah, I
younger
noticed that.
the
Yeah.
longer the kids were in the basement.
hmm Yeah. What was a good twist on the movie, and I
Hmm.
mentioned it at the start, Sash.
Mm.
You kind of saw it from a different perspective of everyone in the movie.
Hmm.
So you saw it from like Justin, Archer, Paul, who played the cop, was in it.
Yeah.
You saw it from, and you saw it from his girlfriend's wife's perspective because he was cheating on her with the.
Yeah.
But Sash, did you like that the way they done that? It wasn't just like this is a basic horror. We're gonna harem, scare 'em, end. But they told me the story, and then, like I said at the start, then they told me the story from Archer's point of view, who was the
Yeah.
dad of one of the
Well,
boys, and then they told me it from the.
one of my favorite films of all time is what Pulp Fiction, and one of my favorite filmmakers of all time is Quentin Tarantino, and
Mhm.
that's exactly how he does the majority of his films. So
Mhm.
for me, it's what's there not to like. In fact,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Me and Neil both being guys that have tried to make films and stuff, we've written films in that same format.
Yeah.
So because, you know, it's all about the reveal. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
the other thing is, it's like reading a novel, because a gripping novel, because
Yeah.
you are playing the audience, aren't you, by revealing information when
Mhm.
they need to have it, rather than showing everything all at once. And that
Mm.
works really well in thrillers and horror
Yeah, I was
movies,
gonna
stuff
say,
like
is
that.
that like obviously
Yeah,
again, and I say this to everyone, I'm a horror virgin. I don't really
yeah,
watch horror, but I am now because of these two motherfuckers. They're getting me into it like no one's business. I'm going again on Friday to see Together. Never thought I'd go and watch a movie like that. Is that a horror thing that you want to get the audience? You go and watch a Marvel movie, you kind of know where you know the premise of where it wants to
Yeah,
get
pretty
to.
much.
You go and watch Superman, you go and watch James Bond, you go and watch any, you know the premise of where they want to get to. Is a movie like Weapons good because you didn't know, and then they put it in our group chat? You ain't gonna see it coming, and
Yeah.
when it hits you, you're like, "Holy fucking shit! I never saw that coming in a million years." Is that what makes a good horror film?
I think that's just what makes a good film.
yeah,
Is you not seeing it coming. I think the thing is horror movies are notorious for having to have twists. They always have to have that one last shock value of an ending. It's always things
Mm.
like that, you know. That is a
Because horror is such a
horror.
slow build, Neil. Does the storyline take more of an impact than a normal movie?
Well, no, I think what it is with good horror films,
Mm.
it's about building tension. So one of the things that Weapons did like amazingly was it built tension. Every time you were watching a scene, there was tension. Whether it's a character, you know, it's the best example I'll give you, right, is after the town meeting when was her name Jeanette,
Mm-hmm. The
right?
teacher.
When she's the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
when she leaves the town meeting and she stops at the shop,
Yep.
she gets out of her truck. Oh, she gets out of her car. And what do you see? She looks into the distance and you see a truck there.
Yep.
She looks towards the shop that she's about to go into. There's a group of guys surrounding, just in a huddle, just there. The guy comes up to her, James, the junkie, right? He comes up to her. She goes into the shop. She buys what she needs to buy. She leaves. When she leaves, the junkie comes up to her again. The group of guys have moved. They're now in a different spot. And just the camera following her, it built tension because you're like, okay, I know that the townfolk don't like her because you know the teachers were all rare, rare, rare. The teachers, sorry, the parents were all going rare, rare, rare when
Mm-hmm.
she was at the school. So you know there's a mob of people who do not like her. Then that then you've got a group of people who might be part of the mob. They might be the uncles and all the brothers and whatever of the kids who've gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there. And suddenly they've just disappeared. Now they haven't disappeared, they've moved 20 feet to their car. But the simple fact that they've moved from where you saw them last builds tension.
Okay.
Then she's walking past and the truck's not there anymore, builds tension.
Mm.
And you're like, she's going to get into the car. Is somebody going to come from behind the car and smash her window? Is somebody going to try and, attack her? What's going on? Nothing happens. She gets home. Cool,
Mm.
she's fine. Then it was like, when she's home, someone bangs on the door and she's like, who is it? Who
There's
is
no
it?
one there, yeah.
Never do that in a damn horror film, right?
Yeah, it's like, why do
Then
they
what
always
you,
run into the woods in horror films? What are you
yeah. Then
doing?
what she do? She opens the front door, walks out of her house, and leaves the front door open.
Yeah.
Right? What's going through your mind? If there's a killer, the killer has snuck into your house,
Mm-hmm.
or something is now in your house waiting for you to get in the house, close the door, and lock it, so you can't leave.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stuff, right? But I think it's more of a film thing, to go back to your original question,
Mm-hmm.
than a horror film thing about like building tension.
Mm. Okay, interesting, interesting. Alex, the little boy Sash, played
Yes.
a great role, lads. The little, and it was a twist at the end. The fact that he has to process and figure out how to stop his auntie, which is effectively by him getting a bit of her wig, her hair,
Hmm.
wrapping it around the twig. And I didn't have a clue what was coming. 'Cause, again, I've never watched horror in my life, really. And when he snaps it, and all the kids, bam, they go after the auntie, and we all saw the great end sequence to that movie, which I thought was
Yep.
fucking incredible. Where they're running through buildings, they're going through glass, and they're chasing her down, and they rip off her face. And I thought it was a great ending to. But that again, for me, I was like, oh fuck, I didn't see that coming again. And again, this is me sitting there pretty much watching my second ever horror movie ever in the cinema, and I'm like, I fucking need to see more of these. I love this.
Hmm.
I thought it was a great. I mean, Sash, going back to the question that I just asked Neil, for you, how important is a quote unquote storyline in horror films, like it was in Weapons? Because, like you said, they and Neil said they built the tension, they twisted you here, they twisted you there, then you're over there, then you're over there,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean,
bam,
like,
it
I agree
finishes.
with Neil on that, like 100% what Neil just said. I mean, I don't think I could add to that, but yeah, he he knocked the hell on the head, knocked the nail on the head right there
Mm,
with all of that. I mean, I mean that look, there's room for both having your typical horror tropes and stuff, but horrors, look, the reason why horror is so, there's so many horror movies that come out every year, and the reason why is because they're cheap to make, they're easy
mm-hmm,
to make for people's first films, and the biggest reason is production value, because you can do something on the cheap and make, what I mean, make it look like if it was shot for $1 million
mm,
for less. You know what I mean? So that's why there's lots of horror movies, because everyone's trying to either think of original ideas. Studios are trying to milk the cheap wagon with the new cast and whatnot. And
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I mean, because horror movies aren't that expensive. They're infinitely more cheaper than superhero movies and action
Hmm.
movies and stuff like that.
They are
Because,
the
you know,
second cheapest genre of films.
what's the first?
I think like things like romance because you're just it's people
Oh yeah, yeah,
most of
yeah,
the time.
you don't really need
yeah.
big stunts, and there's not many big stunts in Love Actually.
Yeah.
FYI, my favorite Christmas
Yeah,
movie.
I guess the budget goes in
You
the
know, like
A-list
that.
stars that they get.
And that's the thing is
Yeah.
look at the people who were in this film,
Mm.
Josh Brolin,
Yeah.
They had fucking Thanos in it for
Justin
fuck's sake.
Long,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin Long's in it. You had what's his name? Who played Solo?
The guy from what's that? Dennis Quaid's kid.
Dennis Quaid. Oh, what Jack Quaid.
Yeah, Jack Quaid. There we go.
Mm.
From
Mm.
The Boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest difference between the horror that you knew growing up and the horror movies that you mentioned and told me to watch, and I will? What's the
Mhm.
biggest difference in horror filmmaking between what we know as quote unquote the classics, Nightmare on Elm Street,
Mhm.
Halloween movies? Because a lot of people saying Weapons and Sinners was a kind of throwback. It's how horror should be made. Everyone talks to me about. I've got a few friends that like Andy. Don't bother watching the last few Nightmare on Elm Streets because they were just flogging a dead horse. It was
Yeah.
called Nightmare on Elm Street, but it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
just entitled. The same. I've got a friend that's like Andy. Do not watch the last few Terminator movies because they were just using the name Terminator, and you can go on and on and on with that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
what's the biggest difference between horror then, horror in the middle, and horror now?
Horror now is, and I when I say horror now, I mean the last 5 to 10 years. It is the people making horror films grew up watching what we would consider to be classic horror. So they
Mm-hmm.
were watching horror films from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there are a ton of people who would disagree with me, but to me personally, the 80s and the 90s, best period of horror ever. Yeah, I know we got things like in the 70s, like you have things like Alien, that's late 70s, and you have things, but of real good solid horror movies, 80s and 90s, perfect period of time, right? And I think what's happening now is again, as I said, you've got people who are making these movies who grew up watching these movies. It's like the first wave. This is like The best way I can describe it to you is that in the late 70s, you got, or in the 70s rather, you got the birth of, you had the first wave of film school film directors. So it's people like, your Brian De Palmas, your George Lucas, Spielberg. You had those guys who studied film and then went and made film. Now, what you're having horror movies where it's people who studied horror, not academically, but just as a fan,
Hmm.
studied horror and then making horror films now. It's a thing of, and because of the era that like I said, the 80s and the 90s, this is the VHS era. So
Hmm.
you're having people who are watching films older than they are, watching things like Psycho and Peeping Tom and A Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then obviously being there when films like Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and The Thing and Critters and Gremlins were all coming out whilst these people were already alive.
Hmm.
And then they're getting older, and then they're reaching the point where they can go to a cinema and watch horror films and watch Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legends, and then getting even older and watching things like Mimic, right? And being like, oh wow, I love these movies. I love these movies. I can do these movies. And then they reach that point, having that period, that period of time to kind of grow in makes them better horror film directors now,
Mm.
right? But also what the diff one of the another difference between movies then and movies now is we are, as a culture, as a society, we're so bombarded with information now that, and we're so bombarded with information, and we're so just blessed or cursed with technology that
Hmm.
everything needs to be super technological. Where's your
Yeah.
CGI? Where's your AI? Where's this? Where's that? And to just watch a film where you're like, I don't need CGI. I don't need AI. I just need a couple practical effects. You know,
Sounds
it's the
like the
kind
last Jurassic Park movie. They didn't need any of that.
of yeah, but it's like, with horror films, if you're gonna make a really good horror film and it's gonna be bloody and gory, you really and truly, all you really need a couple gallons of corn syrup with red dye, or we're living a point now where you can go and get some, just actually just go and buy fake blood. But
Hmm.
as I said, a couple liters of corn syrup with red dye and some disposable t-shirts, you can make something marvelous.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Uh, just talking while we're talking flogging names for the sake of it, while we're briefly here, because we might not get to record again this week.
Mhm.
Hopefully we will, but us three are all super busy this week. The new Aliens has hit Disney Plus. My good friend Chris, who watches this, shout out to Chris, loves the franchise of Aliens.
Yes.
Is this a prime excuse? And I know Ed, another guy who I know really well, good
Mhm.
friend of mine who'll be watching this. He's one of them. He's the same. As soon as Disney got Star Wars, he's like, "No, fuck that. Star Wars ended at Return of the Jedi." He's commented on some of our episodes.
Mhm.
The Hot Take Friday. If you read his comment on
Oh,
there, he said
oh,
Star
him.
Wars ended for him
Yep.
personally when Return of the Jedi. Soon as Disney have got Aliens, is this a case now of right, embrace a new generation of youngsters and moviegoers and TV or like content people? This is where we're getting our content,
Mhm.
or is this a case of Disney getting something and the real hardcore, what we grew up with knowing as Aliens, people going, nah, I ain't fucking watching that.
So it's a mixture. It's a mixture. You see, Ridley Scott, even though he's a producer on all of these Alien films now, ever since Prometheus, where he returned back to the franchise. So he's more or less pulling the strings there. You know what I mean? Why? And yeah, it is to make money. Ultimately, the goal is to make money
Yeah.
because, you know, he's got Scott Free to run. He's
Hmm.
got a lot of, he's got a big production company. He's got a lot of directors that work for him on other projects and stuff. And it's a moneymaker for them. Yeah, I mean, huge moneymaker for them. For Disney, they just want to see, you know, what I mean, they'll fund it as long as it makes them
Yeah,
money. It's
yeah.
what they, yeah, I mean, it's what they do, you know.
But will the
Um,
name alone do that for you? There's certain franchises, like we've said
Yes.
many times,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, Star Wars,
Yes.
Aliens, Back
yeah,
to the Future. That
Yes.
name alone will make you money.
yeah,
Look, you gotta remember, right? These franchises are as old, if not older, than
Mm,
we are.
yeah, and
yeah,
a lot of the
We,
people watching the new generation, they weren't even around when Alien movies
yeah.
come out.
yeah,
Even
I
when
mean,
we,
you gotta think of it like this. Alien, the first Alien movie came out in the late 70s.
mm,
yeah,
So when we're talking about the Alien franchise, you think about it. If you were 20 when you watched Alien, there is a solid chance you have teenage grandchildren,
mm,
yeah,
yeah.
right? And I'm like, you think about that. And if you raise them right,
I was about to say, if you
everybody
brought them
grew
up
up,
right, they've seen
if
it.
you raise them right and everybody grew up loving and appreciating films, this is their movie. You know, you spoke about Star Wars, right? For us, the original trilogy is our movie. It's
Hmm.
yeah,
our movies, right? The prequel trilogy, that's the generation after us. That's their movies.
Mm,
The sequel trilogy, that is the current generation now. This is their movies, right?
mm.
So whilst we are
They'll be us in
absolutely,
25 years' time.
yeah, so whilst we absolutely are allowed to have our opinions on it and be like, oh, you're flogging a dead horse, this isn't great, this isn't that. These movies, whilst on a broad scale are trying to appeal to everyone, these are aimed at a generation that is very different than ours.
Mm,
So that's why, you can make the latest Indiana Jones and it deviate from to a degree from what we've seen in the other 3 to 4 Indiana Jones films. It
mm.
deviates
Especially when
from
a
that.
fucking spaceship turns up at the end.
Yeah, but now it deviates from that, right? But at the same time, imagine a bunch of people who grew up with like I don't know, not Buck Rogers, but who grew up with maybe Errol Flynn films or something like that,
Mm,
and then to see, oh, you open the Ark of the Covenant and everybody's face melts,
mm. I get
right?
that. You know where I get that, Neil? I get that with wrestling a lot. Our older
Yeah,
generation were like, I remember. I get it all the time. I remember Big Daddy and now I'm
yeah,
I'm a WWE fan. But to that generation over there,
yeah.
to them,
Listen, you
what
grew
me
up,
and you are watching now, it ain't wrestling.
yeah,
But to
and
me
that's
and
the thing.
you, it is.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I mean, you look at it. You said you brought up, Big Daddy Haystacks and that,
Mm.
but sorry, Big Daddy and Giant
Giant
Haystacks,
haystacks.
right? You look at it like that. And then you have the likes of Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and the Macho Man. And then
Mm.
that moves forward and you got Stone Cold and The Rock and Triple H. And then it moves forward and then you've got Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle. And it moves forward again. And now you've got, move all the way
Roman
to
Reigns,
today and
exactly.
you've got
John
Roman
Cena.
Reigns,
Yeah, yeah.
Seth Rollins and all of that, right? And it's like things move on. And in reality, you either move with the times or you get left behind.
Mm.
But one thing that is a luxury is nostalgia makes money.
Mm.
And whilst you might get left behind, you'll get left behind for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. Then you will be brought back. It will be brought, it's full circle. You will be brought
Mm. But
back
then
to what
something
it is.
like Sinners and Weapons will come out, and like what you guys are saying, the traditional horror fan and all the reviews I'm reading are for the traditional horror fan. And my mate Chris watching this, he'll be able to testify to this maybe because
Yeah.
he is probably the biggest after you knew it, and you and him would get on like a house on fire. He is Mr. Horror. His house is sign posters everywhere, horror conventions. Well, I'm going to introduce you to this dude. You and him. I'll just leave you in a pub together. That's it. I'll come back in like 2 hours or something. But yeah, for him, horror is absolutely everything. So for the traditional horror fan, watching Weapons, dude, you're gonna get on. You and him are gonna love each other. Yeah, Chris, I know you're watching this, bro. There you go. You and Neil are gonna hook up. You can have a
Yeah.
chat. Horror for him is that's his thing. He'd rather
Yeah.
watch 10 horror films than one Marvel film. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah, I
think
can get that.
from what you guys were saying at the start of the episode,
Mhm.
Sinners, Weapons is gone back to the horror roots. And I'm not sitting here proclaiming to know what the horror roots are, but I can hear that from Neil's voice and Sasha's voice saying this is what horror films are about. Sinners and weapons and things like that. This is what horror is. It isn't like harem, scare 'em, just scare me for the fucking sake of scaring me movies, which there are plenty of them because, and
Yeah.
everyone's just, they just wanted to scare me, scare me, scare me, scare me. There's no real there's no real substance, there's no real plot. But yeah,
Mhm.
I absolutely, for someone that's new to the horror genre, going in to see Weapons, I was like, oh fucking hell, and I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. Let me stick to Superman and all that shit.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm trying to train my brain. I'm like, I'm watching this movie, going, I'm going to be scared in a minute. I'm going to be scared in a minute. Then bam, I'm like, fucking hell, I'm terrified. But yeah, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Just
Mhm.
and the one, and it could have been, but only the aspects, and again, it might be me. I just didn't understand certain things within the movie. But boys, I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved this movie. I recommend anyone go and see it. Go and see it twice. Go and it's kind of left it open. Is this a horror franchise, Neil, that you can see? Sash, Weapons 2, Weapons 3. Is this where they can find?
I Well, I mean, from what I read today, they are speaking about the possibility of a prequel
Oh,
to Prince.
right.
Right.
Yeah, they're talking about the possibility of a
Weren't we
prequel.
talking before we come on air, Neil? How much you fucking hate prequels?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I do not want to see. Well, I like.
Don't get
I said
Sash
I was
started
gonna
on the
say I
Star
don't want to
Wars
see a
prequels.
prequel. I am not fond of the idea of a prequel. Well,
Okay.
whether it's Sinners, people were talking about like they wanted to see a Sinners
They
prequel.
could do a Sinners 2 with the way the first one finished.
Yeah, they were people talking about how they want to see a Sinners prequel. I don't.
No.
I love.
Sometimes you just leave it.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Sinners. Yeah, I mean,
But it
you
comes back
could.
to what you said, Sash. Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's
Well, that's
everything.
just it. That's just it. Sinners would just be for the prequel. You just turn the S at the end into a two, and the first S will have the dollar sign.
And that's why you do what you do, Sash. And I just record the podcast. You're the brains.
Yeah,
I'm just the
yeah,
mouthpiece. That's
yeah,
why
yeah,
you thought
yeah.
about that straight away. There you go,
But no,
everyone.
but no. With but no. Do you know where I got that from? Do you ever hear Andy? I know you probably not heard the story.
You
Neil
probably
knows
know that.
exactly what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
The famous story about aliens, how aliens got made
Okay, go for
How
it.
we went from Alien to
for
Aliens.
aliens.
Right.
So
This isn't
James,
going to
a
be a
young
George Lucas type long story, is
no,
it?
No.
no, no, no. This is real short. This is a lot shorter, a lot shorter. So James
Mm-hmm.
Cameron, he was at 20th Century Fox. He just done Terminator. Just
Mm-hmm.
on Terminator. It's massive. It's a big hit. He wants funding for another project, for a completely different project. But they're like, oh, well, you got to do one of our films for us, kind of thing. So he looked at what they had and he saw Alien. He's like, ooh. I think I could do a good aliens film. So his pitch to them, he just took the word alien, he wrote it on the board or a piece of paper. He goes, puts the S and puts a dollar sign at
Yeah.
the end of the S.
He puts
And
an
he
S and
goes,
then turns it into
that's
a dollar
and
sign.
that was his pitch. That was
Wow.
his pitch. He was just like, Alien, I want to do a sequel. They're like, how do you do a
Yes.
sequel to that? It's just one alien and it died. He goes,
Yeah. So that's with a line down it.
aliens. That
Mm.
was it. And they were
Because
like,
yeah.
sure.
Because I can imagine the people in that room. He drew the S, and
Yeah.
they were like aliens.
Yeah.
And then he just drew the dollar sign, and they were like money.
That's the world we live in now, boys. Someone will make a
Mm.
movie just because they know it will make fucking $500 million, whatever it is. Boys, it's been another great episode. We're probably not going to get another one out this week, I don't think. Sorry to everyone.
Mm.
We are super busy this
Yes.
week. Neil, I know you're busy. Sash, you're busy with work. We'll try and we got Marvelous Monday next week that we'll try and get done sometime
Yes.
because obviously we're up to
Guardians.
Guardians of the Galaxy now, which is I absolutely fucking love that movie. So I can't wait to sit down and talk about that. But there's so much coming out that we're going to go and see. Sasha, I know you've seen Naked Gun, so I'm going to try and get to see that at the weekend. And you and I, and when Neil eventually catches up with the whole franchise, who am I to talk? Because I haven't seen half the fucking horror films that have been ever made. So when Neil eventually, Nobody 2 is out this week. The horror movie Together. For whatever fucking reason, I'm gonna go and see it. This is what you boys have done to me, Neil. I know you've got some issues, legalities about that movie, which we'll get into when we review
Mhm.
it. So Nobody 2 Together. There's so much that's coming out at the minute. There's so much good movies that are out there. We'll watch the Alien stuff on Disney Plus. Probably wait for them all to get on there before we sit down and chat about that. We'll try and maybe get someone like Chris on, my friend, because he absolutely loves that franchise. But go onto YouTube, type in Completed It Podcast is where you can find us. Go into X, type in @CompletedItPod. But we'll be back next week with Marvelous Mondays, movie reviews, and we've got some celebrity guests coming up. We're not done with our Superman content yet. One more guest. She's had to delay because she's filming this week. We've got her on next Thursday or Friday. She has messaged me. There's a clue. It's a woman. Next Thursday or Friday, we're going to have a little bit more Superman content because it is the best movie of 2025. It's out on Sky Store on Friday, everyone. Just saying, and Blu-ray on the 23rd of September. But boys, thanks as always. I will catch up with you next week. Till next time, everybody. Thanks for watching Completed It. Boom. Stay safe.
Feeling overwhelmed by the challenges of daily life? Struggling with anxiety, stress, depression, phobias, fears, or just trying to get yourself back again? Discover the transformative power of focused solution hypnotherapy and counseling. Through guided hypnotherapy, relaxation trance allows your subconscious mind to access your inner resources and strengths you didn't know you had. Book your free consultation today and let's start your journey together. For more information, please email Sharon at scm-therapy.me